basically, I lead the advisory board for the CMO Council for about 6 months now. But we did a study, and basically the study shows that 70% of marketers today are not confident in driving revenue. And that's, whether it's small company or big company. I worked for IBM previously, and I'm going to share a case study in terms of how we try to connect the dots between brand to demand for IBM sponsorship. But, whether you're a big company or a small company, everybody in this room is right. It's so hard for us to drive revenue today. And one thing that remains true, we have so many different go-to-market strategy popping up today, right? You have the ABM, you have PLG. But then, in order for us to connect the dots between your brand campaigns as well your demand campaign, companies are struggling in terms of, where do you place your big bets? Do you place it on your brand or do you place it on your demand? So I'm a strong believer that brand drives demand, and also it's all a holistic view. So with that, the study shows that these are the 5 different pain points that marketers are experiencing. And I have experienced that over 15 years I've been in B2B. And I don't want to make you raise your hand again, but I'm sure at least one of these pain points are resonating with you, right? So organizational silo. In today's age, it's not only aligning your marketing and sales, but also aligning your cross-functional team. Right? You have so many omni-channel strategy, and then more companies are, building out their teams with the center of excellence. So with that, there's so many different components of a marketing strategy as well as campaigns that you need to connect the dots from brand to demand, right? So another one which I mentioned earlier is that where do you put your big bets? Where do you place your resources in this day of age where budget is scarce, right? I was gonna ask you another question again, but how many of you had at least 20% of your budget, was cut the past even 6 months, right? So I'm gonna share with you a 9 C's framework where we focus on the customer to help you identify how do you deliver the right customer value that would drive business outcomes and drive that conversion. The other one I want to focus on here is the lack of ownership of outcomes. So I'm sure you've heard, so many different GTM leaders mentioning about like who should own the GTM strategy, your go-to-market strategy. And more and more, it's a holistic view from the executive team, where the CEO should be responsible for driving the overall go-to-market strategy across the board, right? So that way, there's the alignment. And then a few years ago, I was working for Iron Mountain, and this really resonated with me. This was 2007, so I'm dating myself, but that was my first B2B experience. The CMO at the time mentioned to us that, you guys can be in this room and you can, have tension around certain strategy that you want to implement, certain campaigns. But at the end of the day, we have to leave this room with an alignment. And if you're not aligned, work it through. So that really, really resonated with me. That was like my 3rd month at Iron Mountain. I used to work for B2C previous to then. For retail and financial services. So like really honing in on that is really key. So throughout my career, that's what I really focus on. And you'll see in the example from IBM that the KPIs as well as the revenue strategy, it has to be collaborated from the top down and then, really over communicate what that goals are. So I'm glad that the 70% is right, because I want to make sure that CMO Council is giving credibility here. Because you guys did not raise your hand when you say nobody's having challenges. And that, my friends, are only the internal issues, right? Those are only the internal pain points around collaboration, integrating organization silos, owning the go-to-market and KPIs, as well as how do you deliver campaigns and marketing strategies that deliver that value to the customer. Then we have the external factors. It's always been a customer's world, right? But more and more today, everybody wants instant gratification. not only in the B2C, but also in B2B. That's the reason why you have PLG coming up this past year, because 80%, maybe even now 90% of the customer like you and me are already researching online, are already like talking to your peers, are here to actually get insights. Who should I be working with, right?